The first bell hadn't even rung, but the silence in room 3B was heavier than the heaviest storm. Noah sat at his desk, shoulders hunched, hoodie pulled tight around his trembling frame. His small hands fidgeted with the frayed zipper, trying desperately to hide the dark, angry bruises spreading across his arms and face. The sharp smell of antiseptic from the nurse's office still clung to his uniform, a bitter reminder of what happened just that morning. Outside the window, the sky was a dull gray, but the real storm was happening inside Noah's chest. He couldn't look at anyone. Not the laughing kids. Not the teacher, who was busy stacking papers with an oblivious smile. And certainly not the ones who made this nightmare his reality. Each step to school had felt like walking through a minefield, every glance from a peer threatening to ignite shame, fear, and anger all at once. But what Noah didn't know, what no one in that classroom could see, was that justice was already waiting for him. 8 roaring engines had paused at the school gates, the riders' eyes scanning every inch of the playground, every doorway, every shadow. They didn't just ride for thrill, they rode for protection, for the ones too scared to speak, for those whose voices were drowned by cruelty. The rumble of the bikes was low at first, almost like a distant heartbeat, then louder, like a warning. A storm of chrome and leather, ready to crash through the walls of fear that had trapped Noah for so long. And somewhere, deep in the pit of his stomach, Noah felt a flicker, confusion first, then hope. Would it be enough? Could these strangers, clad in black and steel, really make the bullies pay? The seconds stretched, each one a lifetime, as the classroom clock ticked mercilessly forward. Outside, 8 shadows shifted in unison, engines vibrating like a promise of reckoning. And in that tense, trembling silence, the boy finally wondered, maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. Noah had always been a quiet boy, the kind who lingered at the edges of playgrounds, unnoticed, invisible. He loved drawing superheroes in the margins of his notebooks, imagining a world where courage didn't have to be borrowed and fear could be crushed with a single blow. But the real world, his world, was far from the comics. It started small, at first. A shove in the hallway. A whispered insult in class. Noah tried to ignore it, chalking it up to a bad day or telling himself that kids would be mean sometimes. But then it escalated. The bruises came, the late-night calls from strangers threatening him, the relentless mockery that followed him everywhere. Each day, he wore a mask of normalcy, smiling faintly in the cafeteria, laughing softly when friends spoke, hiding the pain beneath layers of clothing and silence. At home, it wasn't much better. His single mother, exhausted from double shifts at the hospital, didn't always notice the new marks, didn't always ask the questions he feared answering. "It's just a scrape, Noah. Be careful next time," she would say, her tired eyes barely meeting his. And so the boy endured, his world shrinking to the 4 walls of his bedroom, the pages of his sketchbook, and the fleeting sanctuary of school libraries where bullies didn't reach. But the tormentors were relentless. A group of older kids had claimed the school as their territory, and Noah, with his timid ways and quiet demeanor, became their favorite target. He was invisible to the teachers unless the damage was too obvious to ignore. They thrived on control, their laughter echoing in hallways like a warning to anyone else who might resist. And the more they bruised him, the stronger their grip seemed to grow, not just on Noah, but on the fragile sense of safety he clung to. One evening, after a particularly harsh incident that left him bruised across his face and arms, Noah's mother caught a glimpse of his reflection in the mirror. The horror in her eyes mirrored his own despair. She hugged him tightly, whispering words she didn't know would be enough. "I promise, we'll find help. Someone will stand with you." But the words felt hollow, powerless against the looming threat of the bullies who had made their lives a constant battlefield. And that's when the whispers of something different began. Stories of a group of bikers who didn't just ride, they protected. Legends in the neighborhood, people spoke of their sense of justice, their unwavering loyalty, and their uncanny ability to arrive where they were needed most, as if fate itself had sent them. For the first time, Noah allowed himself to imagine that maybe, just maybe, the nightmare could end. That maybe someone, outside of the adults who overlooked him, could see him, not the bruises, not the fear, but the boy who still had courage tucked away, waiting for a spark. That morning, as he trudged toward the school doors with a backpack heavy with books and a body heavy with pain, he didn't know that Spark was already waiting. 8 shadows, engines humming in perfect unison, were about to change everything. By mid-morning, the tension inside room 3B was unbearable. Noah's bullies had already started circling, their smirks wide, eyes glinting with anticipation. Every step he took toward his desk was met with whispered jabs, shoves against the lockers, and the occasional cruel laugh that cut deeper than any punch. The teacher's back was turned, engrossed in a stack of papers, leaving Noah exposed like prey in an open field. It wasn't just physical anymore, their torment had seeped into every corner of his life. Text messages, social media taunts, threats whispered when he passed by, they had made him feel trapped, suffocated, like the walls were closing in from every direction. Each day, the fear grew, and the bruises became more than just skin deep. They were the weight of helplessness, the invisible chains of intimidation that no adult seemed strong enough to break. That morning, things escalated faster than usual. One of the older kids, a hulking figure with a sneer that never left his face, blocked Noah's path to the classroom. "Where do you think you're going, loser?" he taunted, pushing him roughly against the wall. The other kids gathered around, snickering, enjoying the show. The more Noah shrank, the more powerful they felt, feeding off his fear like fuel to a fire that wouldn't die. Noah's heart pounded so violently he thought it might burst through his chest. He wanted to run, to disappear, to wish this nightmare away, but he couldn't. Not yet. Because just as the bully raised his fist, ready to strike again, a low rumble vibrated through the floor. A sound that didn't belong to the classroom, or the school, or any ordinary part of the day. Outside, 8 sets of eyes, riders who had heard the whispers, who had been tracking this injustice, locked onto the school building. Their engines growled like predators circling a target, and their presence alone sent an invisible tremor through the bully's confidence. Noah didn't understand it yet, but the tide was about to turn. The invincible facade of his tormentors was about to crack, and the storm of justice was already rolling closer, closer. The moment the school doors rattled from the distant roar of engines, the entire playground seemed to freeze. Students turned their heads instinctively, phones raising to capture the unexpected spectacle, while teachers blinked in disbelief. A low, powerful growl rolled through the asphalt, rising in intensity until it became a symphony of thunder, shaking the very air around the building. Then they appeared, 8 figures, clad in black leather and steel, moving as one with the precision of a storm. Their motorcycles gleamed under the gray morning sky, chrome glinting like weapons forged for justice. Dust swirled around their wheels as they stopped in a perfect line at the school gates, engines idling like a heartbeat synchronized with the fear already beginning to ripple through the bullies. The leader, a tall man with a streak of silver through his hair, kicked down his bike stand with a sharp clang. He removed his helmet, revealing piercing eyes that could see through lies, fear, and deceit. One by one, the other riders followed, each exuding an aura of unwavering authority, their presence demanding attention without a word. They didn't just ride bikes, they commanded respect, a force that didn't need permission to act. Inside the classroom, Noah's bullies froze mid-motion, unsure if they were witnessing a miracle or a reckoning. The air grew thick with tension, the kind that twists stomachs and quickens pulses. The bikers hadn't just come for show, they had come for justice. And in their code, no child suffering was ever overlooked. The riders moved with calculated calm, stepping off their machines and closing the distance between the school gates and the playground. They didn't rush, yet every step they took carried an undeniable weight. Their unity was a language of its own, an unspoken vow that they would stand together against any injustice. Each biker had a story, a reason for fighting beyond themselves, family members who had been overlooked, neighbors who had been bullied, friends who had suffered quietly. Together, they were more than a gang, they were guardians. Noah's eyes widened as he took in the sight. The fear that had gripped him for months was meeting a new sensation, hope. For the first time, he imagined a world where someone would step in, where cruelty would be confronted head-on. The sound of engines now felt like a shield, the vibration under his feet like a promise that he didn't have to face his tormentors alone. The leader's voice cut through the tension, calm but powerful. "We're here for him," he said simply, nodding toward the classroom. "And we don't leave until justice is done." The bullies, once so confident, now shifted nervously. Their laughter had died in their throats, replaced by an unsteady awareness that this wasn't just another day at school. Something had arrived that they couldn't intimidate or escape. 8 bikers, relentless and united, had stepped into the storm, and the classroom, once a cage, was about to become a stage for reckoning. Noah felt a spark ignite within him, tiny but fierce. He wasn't invisible anymore. Not today. The classroom had transformed into a battlefield, though no one needed weapons to sense the war. The bullies, who had once controlled every inch of Noah's world, now trembled under the weight of 8 determined riders standing at the school gates. The leader's eyes locked on the main tormentor, a hulking boy who had taken cruel delight in Noah's pain for months. Silence hung between them, heavy, almost unbearable. Noah felt a strange mixture of fear and relief. Fear because confrontation was terrifying, relief because the boy he had been for so long, helpless, shamed, hidden, was finally seen. The leader stepped forward, voice calm but filled with authority. "You've had your fun long enough. Today, it ends." The main bully sneered, trying to mask his shaking hands. Who are you supposed to be?" he demanded, but the question sounded hollow, desperate. The other bullies shuffled behind him, their laughter gone, replaced by unease. They hadn't anticipated this. They hadn't anticipated justice arriving like a storm. One of the bikers, a young woman with eyes as sharp as daggers, stepped closer to the playground fence. She pulled out her phone and, with one quick motion, recorded every second. The bullies' actions, their intimidation, everything, it was all being documented. "This is for proof," she said simply, her tone icy. "No one gets to hurt others without consequences." The main bully tried to argue, to claim it was just fun, but the bikers were relentless. The leader approached, slowly, each step a statement. "Fear is not fun. Pain is not a game. You've crossed the line." His voice resonated across the playground, demanding attention, demanding respect. Noah, gathering courage he didn't know he had, finally spoke. "Leave me alone, please." His voice was soft, but it cut through the tension like a blade. The bullies flinched at the unexpected defiance. For the first time, they realized the boy they thought powerless had allies far stronger than themselves. The confrontation escalated only momentarily, verbal shoves and desperate posturing, but the biker's presence was immovable, a wall of authority no threat could breach. Each bully's confidence crumbled as the realization set in: they could not intimidate anyone today, not Noah, not the witnesses, not even the school itself. The leader extended a hand toward Noah. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. We've got your back." Noah stepped forward, a flicker of a smile appearing, the first genuine one in months. The school principal, alerted by the commotion, rushed to the playground, witnessing the biker's imposing presence. Seeing the documented footage, she immediately called for disciplinary action. The bullies, caught in their lies and cruelty, were exposed to the full weight of authority. Outside, the 8 bikers mounted their motorcycles once again, engines roaring, not in anger, but in triumph. They didn't need to strike a single blow. Their arrival, their presence, their unity had already delivered justice. Noah watched as they lined up, the wind catching their jackets, their helmets reflecting the morning sun. They were gone as quickly as they had arrived, leaving behind only the echo of engines and a newfound sense of safety. Noah felt tears prick his eyes, not from fear, not from pain, but from relief, gratitude, and the realization that he was no longer alone in the world. The bullies slunk away, defeated, and the playground seemed larger, brighter, freer than it had in months. The classroom, once heavy with fear, now felt lighter, as if the very walls had breathed a sigh of relief. Noah walked slowly to his desk, his steps steady, no longer weighed down by dread. His bruises were still there, a reminder of the battles he had faced, but they no longer defined him. Courage, once buried beneath layers of fear, now flickered brightly in his chest. His classmates looked at him differently, not with pity, not with mockery, but with a quiet respect. Some whispered apologies, others offered gentle smiles. Noah realized that being seen, truly seen, had changed everything. And outside, though the roaring engines had faded into memory, the presence of the bikers lingered like a protective shadow, a promise that there were those who would always stand against injustice. His mother hugged him tightly after school, tears of relief streaming down her face. "You're safe now, Noah," she whispered. "No one can hurt you like that again." Noah nodded, feeling the weight of months of fear lift slightly from his shoulders. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt a spark of hope for the future, a life where he could be himself without fear. The 8 bikers had left quietly, unsung heroes who needed no recognition, no applause. Their job was done, justice had been restored, and a boy had been given his chance to breathe freely again. But the lesson lingered, unmistakable. Courage could arrive in many forms, sometimes on 2 wheels, roaring louder than any bully's laughter. Noah looked out the window one last time, imagining the bikers riding off into the horizon, the morning sun glinting off their chrome. A smile spread across his face, a small, fragile but determined smile, and he knew that, even in the darkest moments, there were people willing to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe for more powerful stories of courage, hope, and justice. Your support helps bring these stories to life and reminds everyone that heroes can show up in the most unexpected ways.